Good evening, members. Welcome to Castle Point's Cabinet meeting. Members, we're not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm does go off during the meeting, please leave immediately by the nearest exit, gathering outside Runnymede Hall. Cabinet members, please introduce yourselves, starting on the right-hand side with Councillor Warren Gibson.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Warren Gibson. I'm Cabinet Member for Devolution and Local Government Reorganisation.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Leader. Councillor Steve Mountford, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Thank you. Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Councillor Tim Copsey.
Good evening all. Councillor Ross Savage, I'm Cabinet Member for People and Community.
Good evening all. Councillor Rob Lillis, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Housing.
Good evening all. Councillor Barry Palmer, Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Climate Action.
Evening all. Councillor Tom Gibson, Cabinet Member for Special Projects and Assets.
Thank you, members. Sonia, have we any apologies for absence?
None received.
None at all. Thank you very much. Members, any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Members, is it agreed I sign the minutes from the previous meeting? Thank you very much. Members, question or notice, members? There are none. I just signed the minutes. Thank you very much.
In the minutes of the previous meeting, I'm not listed as attending. I think I did write in and say I was here.
You definitely were there.
Thank you.
Okay, members. Agenda item 5, local government reorganisation. Members, before I come into the item, I just would like to say a few words. The fact that local government reorganisation is something which this council was not in favour of. In fact, at the last full council, both my deputy leader and myself both spoke against local government reorganisation. And I think, to be fair to say, most councils across the whole of Essex, apart from Essex County Council, Thurrock and Southend, were against local government reorganisation. The sad thing is that when it comes to democracy, the only councils who had a vote on local government reorganisation and devolution was Essex County Council, Thurrock Council and Southend Council. So at the end of the day, unfortunately, this is being forced upon us. But of course, we've got to be a part of it. So we're not going to actually say we're not going to go along with it. It's in the interest of our residents that we must take part. So next we have a report providing an update on the local government reorganisation in Greater Essex. Members, this report follows on from the report on the English Devolution White Paper, which took to full council back in January. As everybody knows, Essex County Council, Southend and Thurrock were accepted in the Devolution Priority Programme in February, and the ECC elections were postponed. The expectation is that Greater Essex will elect its first mayor in May 2026. Alongside devolution, the government is asking us to consider local government reorganisation. This would impact on all 15 councils in Greater Essex, plus the PFCC, the Police Commissioner. The letter from the government is set out in Apex 1. The government has asked for an interim plan for local government to reorganisation by the 21st March, which is a pretty short timetable. All 15 councils and the PFCC have worked together to create the interim plan, which is in Apex 2. The interim plan is not binding, but is an indication of how all the 15 councils and the PFCC think that local government reorganisation will work. The really important submission will be in September, and that will be the point in which ministers makes the decision as to what local government reorganisation will look like across Essex. At the moment, 10 of the 15 councils are in favour of a 5-unitary model. The other 5 have not yet expressed a preference. That doesn't matter because the government has said that more than one proposal can be put forward in September, so long as the evidence justifies the proposals. What remains important for myself and my deputy is to ensure the better outcome for our residents. And whatever form the local government reorganisation ends up being, we will continue to ensure that members and residents are kept informed of developments with regular briefings, reports and communications as we move through the timetable to 2028. In the meantime, however, officers and the administration have a job to do, and so for us it remains business as usual. As Castlebourne Borough Council, whatever local government reorganisation brings, the people, the places and the issues remain the same. And those are the things that will remain our focus. Members, are there any questions? Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's not really a question, but can I thank you for the report and for the important work that yourself, the Deputy Leader and the Chief Executive are presently carrying out in order to try to secure the best deal for our residents. Chair, I've seen quite a lot of traffic on social media recently, and indeed I've been asked by several residents how we've found ourselves in this position. And for those present and for those watching, can I be clear that the only reason that we're even discussing this item tonight is because Thurrock, Southend and Essex County Council voted in favour of joining the priority programme for devolution. So I'm a little surprised, therefore, Chair, that local Conservatives are questioning that decision when the only residents, as far as I know, from this borough to vote in favour of it were our 3 Conservative ECC councillors. It is now left for us to make the best of the situation, as you rightly say, and I very much agree with the recommendations in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. And could I just mention one other thing which I should have said? There's a lot of people saying that we're about to be taken over. That's not the fact, because every single council in Essex is going to be abolished. So it will be starting afresh. So no one's taking over no one. It's just everybody's going to start afresh. And whoever we go with, we need to start a new council. And I've got to say, I was at that full council at Essex County Council, and I voted against devolution. And I voted against counselling the ECC elections. And I did find some of our fellow colleagues on the Conservative side rather hypocritical when I watched last night at Watchford that they voted against devolution when they voted for Essex County Council. Thank you very much. Mr. Gibson.
Yeah, again, it's not really a question, Leader, but I think it's important to point out, I mean, I agree with you, most people know our view on it, but myself, the Chief Exec, Angela and Councillor Tim Copsey, we attended the DCN last Thursday and Friday, and Jim McMahon, I think I've got his name right, yeah, Jim McMahon, who is the Minister responsible for this. I mean, he addressed conference, and from what I heard, and obviously Tim can back this up if he wants, that it's going to happen. We can't change it now. We can't change it. My colleague Rob's absolutely right. What happened in that chamber in Essex County Council where they voted in favour of the priority programme, that's put us where we are now. And he made it perfectly clear that, I think he used something along the lines, I don't want to quote him directly, but it's basically it's up to you to get your act together. You come up with a proposal. You let me know what you think the best way forward is. Or if not, I will come down with my red pen and I will draw the lines for you. So now, like the Leader said, I think the best thing we can do now is it's done. We're there. It's going to happen. Now we just need to make the best we can for Castle Point and for the residents of this borough. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Okay, members, if there's no more comments. Members, recommendations 1 to 5 are set out in paragraph 3.1 in the report. Are they noted? Okay, I will move recommendations 2, 3 and 4 set out in paragraph 3.1. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Gibson, thank you very much, members. Is that agreed? Thank you, members. Okay, members, moving on to agenda item 5 is the local government reorganised. Oh, no, it ain't. I've got to turn the page. Agenda item 6, the corporate plan. This is a very important document, members, and it's about the approval of the proposed drafted corporate plan. I'm going to invite Ben Brooks, our Assistant Director of Policy Performance, to just take us through some of the focus on some of the important areas. Ben.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. As Lou's just said, the corporate plan is an important document for the Council as it sets out the strategic direction for the organisation for the period 2025 through to 2028. The draft plan, which is included in Appendix 1 to the report, has the following 5 ambitions: working for a prosperous future, healthier and safer communities, a greener and cleaner environment, restoring our council to good health, and we love Castle Point. Section 5.1 of the report sets out a number of areas of focus under each of these 5 ambitions. Section 5.2 of the report sets out how these ambitions are linked to and support the 8 goals of the administration around well-maintained parks and open spaces, good quality council housing, satisfied customers, overall satisfaction with the borough, strong sense of community, feeling safe especially after dark, affordable homes, and supporting local businesses. Section 5.3 through to 5.10 of the report sets out the details of a short consultation about the plan that was conducted over January and February. Of course, we'd have liked to have received more responses to the consultation than the 125 that we got, and just to confirm, that was 123 online and 2 hard copy. My apologies for this typo. But our social media campaign was successful in promoting this and reaching a large number of people, with a reach of just under 23,500 people and just over 1,900 actually clicking through to the survey. The options are set out in Section 6, with option 3 is the preferred option, that is to approve the draft corporate plan and refer to Council for formal adoption so the Council may have in place a corporate plan for implementation from April 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And I'd just like to thank you and all the staff for all the hard work you've done on the corporate plan, because it is a very important document. Members, are there any questions at all? No questions? Okay, members, I move the recommendation that Cabinet recommend to full Council the draft corporate plan set out in Apex 1 be adopted. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Leader. I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, is that agreed? Thank you, members. Agenda item 7, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund Update and Spending Plan for 25-26. Next is a report with an update on how the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is being spent during 23-25, seeking agreement for the plan for spending the allocated funding for 25-26. Councillor Tom Gibson, please introduce your item.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Cabinet. This is a report to provide an update on how the UK Shared Prosperity Fund money has been spent in the period 2023 to 2025, and also to seek agreement for the plan for spending the allocated funding in 2025-26. Just to take us back a little bit, in April 2022, the government launched a £2.6 billion UK Shared Prosperity Fund, or UK SPF, with £1 million being allocated to Castle Point to be paid over a 3-year period to March 25. In total, the grant comprised £586,560 revenue funding and £413,440 capital funding. In the previous update on UK SPF spending 2024, Cabinet agreed the approach of spending the remaining monies for the period 2022 to 25. All monies allocated in that period are to be spent by the 31st of March this year. During the previous update, it was reported that numerous projects had been delivered or were underway, including, among other schemes, just share with you a few highlights. Improvements to the entrance of Rectory Road car park in Hadleigh, upgrade to the play space at Thorney Bay Park, infrared heating panels on Hadleigh Old Fire Station, tree planting workshops at the Gunny with truss links, community-based creative skills development with the Estuary Festival, Sleeping with the Dead project, engaging the community in the history of the mass graves of Bedlam, from Bedlam at Canvey. We had the Canvey Market revitalisation study, the Castle Point Business Accelerator, the Employment Plus scheme, and various green skills courses, just to name a few schemes that we delivered upon and approved. There were also a number of projects agreed at the November 2024 Cabinet meeting going forward. Of these to date, we have or will have delivered by the 31st of March open space and flood alleviation at Woodside Park, a cultural and tourism strategy designed to bring visitors into Castle Point to boost the local economy, further enhancements to Choose Local, and functional skills and CSCS training for local young people. And there were a few other initiatives discussed at that meeting, among which the procurement for the sensory garden at Richmond Park has been unfortunately unsuccessful, although this project does remain very much part of the Council's agenda, which we'll pursue by other means. Procurement for footpath improvements at South Benfleet playing fields and engagement for prospective improvements to the playground facilities at Richmond Park are underway, but will not be delivered by the 31st of March deadline. The total for these initiatives agreed in November can be broken down into £68,610 revenue spend and £6,850 capital spend. This means that the current 2022 to 25 allocation stands at £580,214, or 99% of revenue funding, plus £108,934, which makes up 26% of capital funding. So as we can see, there remains a significant underspend in relation to UK SPF, which is mostly due to the delays and unsuccessful procurement exercises that I've just mentioned. The UK SPF rules are clear that capital funding cannot be reallocated to revenue projects. At this stage, the Council is at risk of losing this capital resource, amounting to £304,506, as any monies unspent by the 31st of March must be returned to the Government. However, the Council can reallocate capital funds within the programme on projects which provide community benefit. Having reflected on the terms and conditions of UK SPF, it's recommended that the remaining revenue and capital resource of £310,852 is reassigned to the paddocks refurbishment, which will be completed by the 31st of March 2025. This would constitute an investment in strengthening community infrastructure, which would sit under Intervention E11 of UK SPF. The spend on the applicable works at the paddocks more than exceeds the amount of UK SPF capital funding left available, and will ensure that we can retain the full £1 million originally awarded. This means that an element of the draw from the reserves for the paddocks approved at Council in December 2023 and August 2024 is no longer necessary. However, given that Cabinet had previously agreed to fund the sensory garden, solar lighting of footpaths and refurbishment of the playground at South Benfleet playing fields from UK SPF, but is unable to deliver from that resource in 2024-25, is recommended that the reserve drawdown remaining is instead used to fund the delivery of those projects in 25-26. In terms of outcomes of UK SPF spending in 2022-25, I think it's important again just to go over what we've achieved to date. So the initiatives that we've approved and the initiatives we've funded, we've seen a tangible uplift in resident engagement. We've seen growth and development of the local creative and cultural sector. We've seen strong delivery of business support through the Business Accelerator, wider engagement of the community sector through the Community Grants Scheme, the ability to generate deliverable plans for Canvey Market, Hadleigh Town Centre and for culture and tourism across the borough, skills delivery to young people struggling with exclusion from employment or training, and wider skills delivery in the green sector roles relevant to Castle Point and its residents. We've recognised that there is clearly a challenge in delivering capital projects due to contractor bids and procurement requirements. We will actively engage with potential contractors to understand why they did not tender and how we can adapt to attract suitable tenderers on future projects. So turning to proposals for UK SPF spending in 25-26 then. In the autumn budget, the government confirmed that it will continue to allocate UK SPF to authorities in the coming municipal year, with Castle Point allocated £327,146 in total, comprising a requirement for a minimum of £60,401 to be spent on capital projects. Reflecting on the success of projects in the period from 2022 to 25, the outcomes of feasibility studies, and on other funding becoming available, the following spending proposals are set out for UK SPF in 25-26. The Castle Point Business Accelerator. This programme has delivered against its targets for January 24 to March 25, which is the period that the programme has been in place. This has helped businesses both survive and grow with new jobs and businesses arising from it. It's therefore proposed that this programme is extended. The extension of the programme will include specific targets around women in business and older people starting new businesses as per the need identified by the data collected so far. Specific support will also be offered to those businesses that need help with the licensing and regulatory compliance through a referral route from the Council. This project has a cost of £83,000 of revenue. We've also got the Hadleigh Vision short-term delivery. So a vision has been developed for Hadleigh Town Centre, and we'll learn a little bit more about that during this meeting. This has been done through engagement with residents, businesses and stakeholders in Hadleigh, and is reported, as I said, separately as part of tonight's agenda. I know residents of Hadleigh will be saying we've heard it all before in this regard, and of course they'd be right. But my message to Hadleigh is that you're not dealing with the Conservatives now. This is a new, independent administration-led initiative which will deliver visible and tangible improvements to Hadleigh Town Centre in the short, medium and long term. This initiative has a cost of £83,000, comprising £39,000 revenue and £51,000 capital. Also got the engagement through art. This programme has successfully delivered not only an engagement programme addressing the aspirations from across the borough in terms of placemaking, but it's also helped to draw out and begin to build a cultural and creative sector in Castle Point. It's proposed that this is extended for an additional year at a revenue cost of £55,000 with a focus on climate action, which it will seek to draw out what people feel about climate change and what actions we can all be taking to address it. We'll also be looking to continue the community small grant scheme. There's a strong uptake from local community groups to the funding available between 2022 and 25. These small pots of money, although they are small, can make a massive difference to community groups across the borough. Given the success of the scheme, it's proposed that a small grant scheme for creating community capacity and delivering community infrastructure is offered across Benfleet, Hadleigh and Thundersley in 2025-26. It's proposed that this funding pot is £40,000, comprising £30,000 revenue and £10,000 capital. We're also continuing to look at entrepreneurship and upskilling support for young people. So taking the lessons learned from the functional skills and CSCS training for young people, the offering was popular and resulted in each and every participant gaining a qualification. However, the offering could still be improved by having progression routes into jobs or work experience through greater links, for example, with employers. Therefore, a training programme is proposed, ideally delivered by a local provider that will equip young people with the skills they need to be employment ready. A youth entrepreneurship programme through University is also proposed for young people within education aged 13 to 18. This is a 6-week programme teaching vital and transferable skills to students with a passion for business and to encourage future entrepreneurs. This offer will be extended to 50 young people in local schools and colleges and has a total cost of £27,400 revenue. And finally, we're looking at a youth physical activity engagement programme. As a result of the Sports England Place partnership work on Canvey, a consortium of local groups and charities has developed that are using sport and physical activity to help develop young people in the areas of both physical and mental well-being. Also helps to, as we've seen, raise their aspirations and divert them from risky behaviours. A widespread programme of activities is proposed, and it's suggested that this is extended into Benfleet, Hadleigh and Thundersley, utilising UK SPF money to deliver street-level engagement with young people and to help activate parks and green spaces such as tar pots and at South Benfleet playing fields, which will have a cost of £25,000 revenue. So overall, it's proposed that the full £327,000 is spent in 25-26, with £61,000 directed to capital projects. There is a table in the report on page 10 that summarises the proposed spend in a little bit more detail. Leader, there are 3 elements to this report on which Cabinet need to decide this evening. In terms of the reallocation of unspent UK SPF, it's recommended that the monies are reallocated as detailed earlier in this report, as per option 2, as set out in section 7.3 of the report, and subsequently paragraph 7.7. So they're 2 separate options over 2 paragraphs. It's also recommended that the option to allocate to the projects which I've just described is also approved. Cabinet, I hope you will consider and approve these recommendations so that this council can continue to use the UK SPF money to deliver real, tangible improvement to both the borough and its residents. I'd like to thank Amanda Parrott for putting together this comprehensive report and the whole team for all their hard work on all of these initiatives to date, and I would, of course, be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. And it's pleased to know that this fund has helped so many community groups right across the borough as well. Members, are there any questions? No members? Okay. Members, there are 3 recommendations set out in paragraph 3.1 in the report, which I will move. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Is that agreed, members? Thank you very much. Agenda item 8, Hadleigh Town Centre report on the future vision and strategy and proposed next steps. We have before us an update on the outcome of the study and report prepared by the retail group and urbanist with a vision of what Hadleigh Town Centre could look like in 2040, following research and surveys with residents and businesses and stakeholders. Councillor Palmer, could you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Leader. Members. As you said, this is a report about the future vision and strategy of Hadleigh Town Centre and the proposed next steps. This has already been alluded to. This has been done over the last 15 years in one way or another, but never ever come to any fruition. The purpose of the report is to consider and update the report on the outcome of the study and report as prepared by the retail group and the urbanist with a vision with Hadleigh Town Centre could look like in 2040. The report follows extensive research and surveys with both residents, businesses and stakeholders. It links to the Council's priorities and objectives. The priority links to our 21-24 priority in Area 1, economy and growth, and the productivity and business growth objectives, and forms part of our work on regeneration of our town centres. There are 3 recommendations for Cabinet members to consider at the end of the report. Note the content of the report. Authorise officers to implement the short-term recommendations set out in Table 2 by March 26. Authorise officers to prepare and deliver the delivery plan to establish how the remaining short, medium and long-term recommendations will be delivered and reported back to Cabinet. Introduction. Using the allocation of the UK SPF fund, thank you, Councillor Tom, the Council commissioned the retail group and urbanists to develop a vision for Hadleigh Town Centre by 2040, along with an action plan of how the vision may be achieved. The plan contains a strategy and recommendation of how that vision may be achieved and developed October 24 to February 25. Cabinet colleagues will be familiar with the retail group who have worked with us on the Canvey market refresh study, which was reported earlier in the year. Track record for secure and strong engagement. This is the report. They have attached over 600 responses to resident survey and 8 responses from businesses and many stakeholders. The main narrative report of the Appendix 1 and sets out the analysis of the evidence and policies with a descriptive vision and recommendations over the short term and long term required to deliver the vision. Appendix 2 sets out a visual report showing changes to make it a more pleasant environment for users. This is referred to in the main report as the Hadleigh Town Centre Place Plan. Vision and strategy objectives. Paragraph 5.1 highlights the vision of a thriving and vibrant town centre with a great quality of individual retail and service offerings. Activities and attractions nearby for residents, workers and those who pass through. It envisages Hadleigh as a great place to enjoy with a friendly and active community. The narrative vision is supported by the visual vision for Hadleigh referred to as the Hadleigh Town Centre 2040 Place Plan, and which sees a series of changes to land use and road layout to create a more welcoming environment over the longer term. To support the vision, the report has 5 objectives. Improve the customer experience, address the physical environment facilities, increase the collective benefit of the existing assets and attraction, most of these existing assets, and increase their appeal. Extend the choice available, build on existing retail and service offerings while retaining the focus of an independent business. Improve the management, marketing and promotion of the town centre. Curate and facilitate more regular markets plus visiting themed markets and new events to encourage customers, businesses and stakeholders to work together more effectively for the benefit of the town centre as a whole. And number 5, to deliver the Hadleigh Town Centre 2040 Place Plan. The future town centre should be less about cars and more about people, services and place. retaining, polish and improve the existing assets, add missing new ones and make it a pleasant and safe, healthy place to visit. The recommended actions are, against each of the strategic objectives, a series of recommended actions are proposed. These are detailed from pages 77 to 80 in the main report at Appendix 1. In respect of objectives 1 to 4 and pages 14 to 22 in the place plan at Appendix 2. 6.2, the recommended actions are summarised in the table below, which is not intended to go through them all at this time, but some of the recommended actions have been completed, such as fixing the clock. Others are underway already, such as 4G, parking strategy review, and the preparation to shopfront design guidance. There is also a degree of duplication in the list, as some of the actions are repeated between different strategic objectives. 6.3, the recommendations cross several areas of work. For example, there are actions related to street cleansing and maintenance. The recommendations related to economic development and business support. Recommendations related to highways and recommendations related to regeneration. This means that there is a need to coordinate all the approaches to delivery to ensure that the delivery of one action does not hamper the delivery of others. It also means that the vision for Hadleigh Town Centre is not reliant on one or two big projects and is consequently more deliverable, as there are many component parts that different organisations and community can take the lead on. Option 1 is to do nothing. Hadleigh Vision work garnered a high degree of engagement with the local community. If we receive this report but do nothing with it, then the people of Hadleigh who took the time to engage in the work will be disappointed with the outcome, and it will not engage in future consultations with the council. To do nothing will give risk to mistrust and dissatisfaction. Option 2, do something whilst we have developed a detailed delivery plan. The Hadleigh Vision work has identified a series of recommended actions that have different degrees of impact and can be delivered over different periods depending on their complexity. To be able to deliver the recommendations in full, it is necessary to now develop a detailed delivery plan. This will take around 4 to 6 months to develop, as it requires testing the feasibility of the different proposals, gathering information from different partners and bringing that testing and information together into a coherent plan of action. There is a risk that in that time, mistrust and disfranchisement amongst residents and businesses builds as they see is inaction. It is, however, possible to bring forward some action sooner rather than later without impacting on the overall delivery of the recommendations in full. This will provide residents and business with a sense that their concerns and desires have been listened to and something is happening, whilst the finer details of the wider plan are being developed. Option 3, develop a detailed delivery plan. The Hadleigh Vision work has identified a series of recommended actions that have different degrees of impact and can be delivered over different periods depending on their complexity. To be able to deliver the recommendations in full, it is necessary to now develop a detailed delivery plan. This will take around 4 to 6 months to develop, as it requires testing and feasibility of different proposals, gathering different information from different partners and bringing that testing and information together into a coherent plan of action. There is a risk that at that time that the same mistrust and disenfranchisement among residents and business builds up because of the inaction. This does, however, avoid any short-term actions being abortive over the long term. The preferred option is option 2. It is the preferred option and is reflected by the inclusion of recommendation 2 of the report. It is important for the people of Hadleigh to see that the contributions they made through the engagement have resulted in some immediate actions, even if it takes longer for the wider plan to be delivered. Risk implications. The Hadleigh Town Centre Future Vision and Strategy report highlights that Hadleigh Town Centre is well loved by residents and has some key assets that give it strength. However, there are a host of challenges, some smaller, some larger, which means that it is not optimising its potential in terms of place for business or a place for the community and the people. This puts Hadleigh at risk of decline, especially if areas nearby are invested in and we are perceived to have had a better offer. To this end, it is critical that the outcomes of this work are considered and acted upon to support the economic and social well-being of Hadleigh and the residents and its businesses. Thank you, Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. A very comprehensive report there. Members, are there any questions? No questions, members. Right, members, do you note recommendation 1? Is that noted? I will move recommendations 2 and 3 set out in paragraph 3.1 of the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gibson, thank you very much. Is that agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you, members. Moving on, agenda item 9 is the commercial strategy for 25 to 28. Next, we have a report setting out the rationale, background and design principles of the proposed commercial strategy for 25 to 28. Councillor Tom Gibson, please introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Cabinet. So, right from the start of the when we took office and then later on the transformation process, the key part of restoring Castle Point to the point of being the functional council we have today was to look at everything that we have and what we do through a commercial lens. This was highlighted as a priority within the new senior leadership team at the council in the early stage of the transformation process. We had to ask ourselves, as the Conservatives had for so long failed to do, were we really delivering optimum value for taxpayers' money? If not, why not? And how could we expect to repair this council if this were not a core focus of our policy agenda? As we heard from Councillor Mountford at the budget setting meeting, the independent administration has accomplished a remarkable achievement by delivering a balanced budget for not just 1, but the next 3 years. However, we do remain acutely aware that the demand for services and ongoing financial pressures mean that in order to ensure that this stable position is maintained, the Council must commit fully to taking a commercial approach to deliver sustainable services, especially when it comes to the use of our assets. The proposed commercial strategy would form part of a group of documents known as the Organisational Plan, which would broadly set out the Council's agenda going forward. Among these documents, you would have the Castle Point Plan, which earlier Councillor Warren Gibson and now Councillor Copsey are leading on, along with the rest of the Castle Point Plan board. It would comprise of the Waste and Recycling Strategy, led by Councillor Mike Fuller, the Medium-Term Financial Strategy, otherwise known as the Budget, led by Councillor Mountford, the Council's Procurement Policy, the Housing Improvement Plan, being overseen by Councillor Lillis, and the Tourism Strategy and Climate Policy, being led by Councillor Palmer. This is indicative of a Cabinet and an administration united in its ambition for this council, and each portfolio holder pulling towards a common goal of a transparent council which seeks to deliver for its residents at every given opportunity. I'm sure everyone's had a chance to read the document, so I won't go into all the detail here, but I will summarise by saying that the commercial strategy simply outlines the council's approach to commercialism, including the commercial vision and design principles, how opportunities are identified, prioritised and delivered, and how they will support delivery of the corporate plan. When considering our design principles, we need to look at these through a commercial lens to ensure that we're delivering for our residents. Many residents may wonder what we mean by this, and so to give some concrete commitments, the council commits to carry out and maintain the council's role as a shaper of our borough, clear and transparent governance, robust performance and contract management with all options explored in situations where contractors are not pulling their weight, reinvestment of surplus to support quality service delivery, being risk aware rather than risk averse, and the prioritisation of activity based on sustainability. The strategy sets out how the council will foster an innovative culture that in turn will help to develop the tools and environment that staff will need to deliver financially stable services for our community without compromising on quality. I'd like to thank the Director of Commercial Assets, Matt Harwood-White, for putting together this report along with the policy, and would of course be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Members, are there any comments or questions?
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank my colleague for his excellent report to Cabinet? And can I just ask Councillor Gibson, can you explain what a commercial approach to identifying new opportunities might look like? Thank you.
Of course, yeah. So I'm aware of when the wider public hear the word commercial, you automatically think about making the most money you can. That's not what this policy is about. When we talk about implementing change and policy through a commercial lens, what we're talking about is looking at the long-term sustainability of that service and hopefully the improvement of that service as well. So an example I'll give you as Cabinet Member for Housing, I'll use the example of the purchase of Abbeyfield House, which, as you know, will be turning, or hopefully turning into temporary accommodation. Although this represented an initial substantial outlay, from all the data we've seen, that's going to pay back in dividends over the years, where the council don't have to pay for expensive B&Bs, for example, to house families recently made homeless. Not only that, we'll also then have an asset that we didn't have before. So it secures the council's financial position, as well as giving a tangible improvement of that service from a resident-facing perspective. So, for example, it's always better for, if someone is unfortunate enough to find themselves homeless, perhaps they've had a lease not renewed in their rental property or something like that. It's always beneficial for them to be able to stay within the borough, close to their support networks, close to their schools, close to their places of work, rather than be shipped to a B&B in Southend or Basildon or even Colchester or Ipswich. So this is indicative of the approach that we're looking to take when we talk about commercialism. It's investment in service for the sustainability of that service, and also with the main goal of not making money for the council, but for those real, don't like to use the word customer facing, but I'll use the word resident facing improvements for service users.
Thank you very much for that response. Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Yeah, and likewise, Sir Robert, it's a great report, and much of what you've said in it kind of answers my question, and in fact some of it was answered in the response to Councillor Lewis. But I think when residents hear the word commercial, certainly when it comes to local government, they kind of get a little bit worried. So can you just clarify what a commercial approach means, and that it certainly doesn't just mean either making, but more so saving money when it comes to providing services to our residents?
Yeah, of course. So, as you say, it's the community impact of everything we do is at the heart of why we've proposed this policy and why we think it's such an important lens to be looking at every decision we make going forward. You're right. It's when people hear about, people hear the words commercial and local government together, sometimes people might get a little bit jumpy, but it's all about delivering for the community. It's not about, as I say, that financial impact. To give an example of something that we have done looking at the management of our assets through a commercial lens, is we've recently introduced a voluntary and community sector lease policy. So that's where if any council property comes up for, goes out to tender or comes up for a new licence agreement or anything like that, if there is a local voluntary or community sector business or group that could bring that real value to the community but might not be able to afford the market rent, we've now got that policy in place where they can work through a set framework. They can explain to the council exactly how they're going to benefit the community, exactly why they want to open up the given facility or take on whatever lease they want to take on, etc. And if the council is satisfied that this organisation is doing what they're doing for the benefit of the community, and they think it could transform one of our assets into even more of a community asset, and then we have the ability to offer them up to a 50% discount on market rent. So it's to reassure anyone, it's not, when we say commercial strategy, we're not talking about maximising income. Frankly, what's on the council's balance sheet doesn't concern me. It's the material impact we have in the community that concerns me. And that's just one example. That voluntary community sector lease is an example of where we will, on occasion, where we can seek to help out organisations that are seeking to make a real difference in the community.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Thank you. Right.
Thank you, Leader. Would this be the sort of thing that could be used for the splash park on Canvey Island, which has been getting derelict over time? And it's something that we thought about. If somebody wanted to come in, we would help them with regards to how much the costs would be, with regards to what the rent would be, for example, if they were to do it all up and get it active again.
So yeah, the policy's there. The policy's there for anyone who is looking to take on any sort of basis one of our council assets. It's that the policy is there to be utilised, to be looked at. Depending on whether it would be applicable to the splash park, it would obviously depend on the individual application, what they would be bringing to the table, what would they be looking to do for the communities. But yeah, the policy's there to so this is a great example of where the policy works, where we really start to seek to gain that consistency across all of our assets. Okay, so when I took over this portfolio, we had so many piecemeal different. So there'd be one deal for this asset over here, then a completely different deal for that asset over there. What we're really starting to do now is centralise that and start to have a little bit of consistency, so that the council estate is much more easy to manage. So this, the voluntary and community sector policy that I've mentioned applies to anyone seeking to lease any of our properties. So if we were to seek interest in terms of the splash park, then they'd be absolutely welcome to view the policy and make an application on that basis.
Thank you very much for that, Tom. It's something as the ward councillor I get asked on a daily basis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gibson. As there's no more questions, members, I move the recommendation to approve the commercial strategy for 2025 to 2028 as set out in Apex 1. Do I have a seconder? Thank you,
I'll second it, Leader.
Gibson. Thank you very much. Members, Thank you. Okay, agenda item 10, the corporate performance scorecard, quarter 3, 2024 to 2025. Finally, we have a report setting out the performance figures for the corporate performance scorecard for quarter 3, 2024 to 2025. Councillor Mumford, please introduce this item.
Thank you, Leader, and members. Firstly, I would like to thank Josh Hutt and Ben Brooks for preparing this report again. I'm really pleased with the way this new report is looking, and we've found some consistency. I think the report is much improved. So the scorecard reports on performance indicators for important service outcomes that are relevant to the council's priorities as set out in the current corporate plan, and we are looking at Q3 for 24-25. As part of the refresh of the corporate plan for 2025 to 28, there will be an update on the performance indicators to ensure that they continue to reflect the council's priorities. The proposed new indicators will be brought to Cabinet in April 2025. The report this evening includes a summary and a detailed view of each KPI. Overall, the performance had 23 of the 28 indicators are on or above target, and 5 of the 28 indicators are below target. I would just like to draw your attention to the 2 items below target. The leisure satisfaction net promoter score NPS at Waldside Farm. For quarter 3, the performance has dropped to 61 from 68 for the previous quarter when the target was 75. Satisfaction with leisure services is measured by a net promoter score, which can range from a -100 as a detractor to +100 as a promoter for recommending the service. The decrease is attributable to complaints received regarding availability of the on-site car parking, and car parking situation will be reviewed in Q4. Next item, the average time taken to relet voids for standard relets. The average time taken to relet council-owned housing is the time taken measured from the end of the notice period from the outgoing tenant up to the new tenant has moved in. The average void turnaround time continues to report closer to the target of 20 days. However, due to the April figure being so high of 45.5 days, the team is still playing catch up to get the average down, and the average performance as at the end of Q3 is almost back to target levels, with an expectation that performance will improve to within target for the next quarter. It's proposed that Cabinet notes the report and continues to monitor performance, and secondly, considers any performance that may wish to refer to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for further investigation and review. Thank you very much. If there are any questions. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mumford. Members, are there any questions? No? Okay. Could I just give a little plug, because I'm really pleased with the wheelie bin garden waste going up, because it's such a good service. But just remember, members, subscription's due at the end of the month. If you want it, you've been emptied, make sure you pay before the end of the month. Thank you, members. Our recommendations 3, 4, 5 set out in paragraph 3 point report noted. Are they noted, members? Members, is recommendation 1 noted? Is there any performance that the Cabinet wishes to refer to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for further investigations and review? No. I'm sure if members think afterwards they might be able to look at it there. Okay then, members, that concludes the meeting for tonight. And no, sorry, get back. Agenda item 11, referred from Overview and Scrutiny. Members, there are none. Now it concludes for formal business of the evening. Meeting closed at whatever time. 10 to 8. Good night, everybody, and I'll see you next time.